Hare Krishna. So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Bhagavad Gita. We'll offer prayers and we'll start reading Bhagavad Gita as it is. We are on the 8th page of Bhagavad Gita. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatai Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all for joining in. Reading from the 8th page of Bhagavad Gita. So, Srila Prabhupada right now is speaking about the 5 subject matters of Bhagavad Gita. Yesterday, Ishwar and Jiva was discussed. And then the discussion began on Prakriti. That's what we are discussing. What is material nature? This is also explained in the Gita as inferior Prakriti or inferior nature. Oh, I have a stand. Bring it. Excuse me. The living entity is explained as a superior Prakriti. This is Bhagavad Gita 7.4 and 7.5. Prakriti is always under the control. That's the point. Just one quick second, everyone. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord just as the activities of a wife. Oh, we discussed that yesterday actually. We started our discussion from the next paragraph. We have to start. What is this Prakriti made up of? Next paragraph. Material nature itself is constituted by 3 qualities: Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun, and in English they're called as goodness, passion, ignorance. Above these modes there is eternal time, Kalaha. And by combination of these modes of nature and under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called as karma. This is a very important concept of Bhagavad Gita, how actions are performed under the purview or under the subjugation or conditioning of the modes, and under the purview of time, activities are performed which are called as karma. So we are not actually the doer. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial. Prior to coming to Krishna consciousness, I had only heard the word memorial. I never heard immemorial. This is Srila Prabhupada's usage. You can mark out special words Prabhupada will use. Immemorial. And we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and I have worked very hard with intelligence and have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then, say I have lost all my money in business, then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of work, or we suffer the results. This is called as karma. Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, Karma are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Out of these 5, the Lord, living entities, Prakriti and Kala are eternal. So what is not eternal? Karma. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. So Mayavadis, when they say Jagan Mithya, it is still false. Some philosophers say that manifestation of material nature is false. But according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real, but temporary. you want to highlight this point. Many times people ask, what's the difference between Mayavadi's theology and Vaishnava theology? That's one of the major difference. They consider this world to be illusory, non-existing. But according to Bhagavad Gita philosophy, it is temporary. It is likened unto a cloud, a beautiful example, which moves across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season, which nourishes grains. As soon as the rainy season is over, and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which are nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while, and then disappears. Such are the workings of Prakriti. But this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. Just like the movements of the sun or the moon, every day there is sunrise, and then every day there is a sunset. Because there is a sunset, it does not mean sun does not exist. It is an eternal cycle. That is what Prabhupada is explaining. Prakriti manifest and unmanifest at certain time. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal, it is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material energy is the separated energy of the Supreme Lord. And similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord. This is Bhagavad Gita 7.4 and 7.5. Although they are not separated, but are eternally related. So the Lord, living entities, and material nature and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other item, karma, is not eternal. The effects of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from time immemorial, but we can change the results of our karma or our activity, and this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities. But this is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. The position of Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, is that of supreme consciousness. Jivas, being part and parcel of the Lord, are also conscious. Both the living entities and material nature are explained as Prakriti. So Prabhupada began his discussion explaining the relationship between Ishvara and Jiva, which we read yesterday. Now Prabhupada began the discussion, the flow continues, and Prabhupada speaks about what is Prakriti. And now Prabhupada is talking about the relationship between Prakriti and Jiva. Is that clear? That is a flow of discussion going on. So here now Prabhupada explains relationship between Prakriti and Jiva. And prior to that, in the previous paragraph that we read, Prabhupada talks about, in one way, the relationship between all the five. Where four are eternal, one is temporary. So Prakriti, material nature, and Jivas, both are Prakriti, which means the energy of the Lord. But one of the two, the Jiva, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious, Jada. That is the difference. Therefore, the Jiva Prakriti is called superior. Aparyam itastu anyam. There is another, energy of mind, Lord Shri Krishna says in the 5th verse, 7th chapter. That is the difference. Therefore, the Jiva Prakriti is called superior because Jiva has consciousness which is similar to the Lord's. The Lord's is supreme consciousness, however, and one should not claim that the Jiva, the living entity, is also supremely conscious. 13th chapter will discuss about it. What is the subject of? Kshetrajna. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection, and the theory that he can be so is a misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly or supremely conscious. Supremely conscious, Prabhupada gives an example himself, is like of a king who knows about all the land, and he only distributes the land to a farmer, whereas a farmer is only aware of his own land. So we are like that farmer, and Krishna is like that king. That's the point. The distinction between the Jiva and Ishvara will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is Kshetrajna, conscious, as is the living being. But the living being is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all bodies. Because he lives in the heart of every living being, he is conscious of the psychic movements of the particular Jivas. We should not forget this. It is also explained that the Paramatma, which is Supreme Personality Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishvara, as a controller, and that he is giving directions for the living entities to act as he desires. 5th chapter and 13th chapter both talks about it. The living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes a determination to act in a certain way. The determination, different people have different determination. One is determined to drink alcohol, one is determined to play sports, one is determined to read Bhagavad Gita, right? It's determination. All of you are present here, while somebody else is determined to sleep. You might have tried waking up. So your determination is in mode of goodness. 18th chapter talks about our determination is also under modes. Those who are determined to sleep, that is mode of ignorance. Like that, there is a differences in our actions and behaviors. So first of all, he makes the determination to act in a certain way, then he's entangled in the actions, reactions of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body. As we take off and put on clothes, as the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. These activities can be changed when the living being is in the mode of goodness. Insanity. Not insanity, insanity. I'm putting up intentional pause here, okay? And understand what sort of activities he should adopt. If he does so, then all the actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not internal. Therefore, we stated that of the 5 items, 4 are eternal, whereas karma is not eternal. So the lesson we can learn from here is, unless we cultivate mode of goodness, we cannot change our karmic reactions or the result of the karmic reactions. Now, let's move forward. The Supreme Conscious Ishvara is similar to the living entity in this way. Which way? Consciousness. Both the consciousness of the Lord and of the living entity are transcendental. It is not that consciousness is generated by the association of matter. This is what modern science understands. This is a mistaken idea. The theory that consciousness develops under certain circumstances of material combination is not accepted in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Prabhupada wrote a book, Life Comes from Life, not from matter. Consciousness may be pervertly reflected by the covering of material circumstances, just as light reflected through a colored glass may appear to be a certain color. But the consciousness of the Lord is not materially affected. Lord Krishna says, Maya adhyakshena prakriti. Maya, my, adhyaksh. Prakriti is under my control. When he descends into the material universe, his consciousness is not materially affected. If he was so affected, he would be unfit to speak on transcendental matters as he does in the Bhagavad Gita. One cannot say anything about the transcendental world without being free from materially contaminated consciousness. Janma karma chame divyam. So as Lord Krishna says, my birth and activities are divyam. Similarly, this Bhagavad Gita is divyam. Very important. This is a transcendental message spoken by the Lord, free from all material contamination, which means absolute truth. Whatever is said here is absolute truth. So the Lord is not materially contaminated. Our consciousness at the present moment, however, is materially contaminated. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that we have to purify this materially contaminated consciousness. In pure consciousness, our actions will be dovetailed to the will of the Ishvara, and that will make us happy. It is not that we have to cease all activities, which means stop the activities, which the Mayavadis talk about. The goal of their life is to cease, stop all the activities, and that's what they call moksha. Rather, our activities need to be purified, and that purified activities are called as bhakti. What is the purified activities? When activities are engaged in the service of the Lord. Activities in bhakti appear to be like ordinary activities, but they are not contaminated. Ya anisha sarva bhutanam, which means externally both materialist and spiritualist may perform the same activity in the same manner, but they are not contaminated like that of a materialist. An ignorant person may see that a devotee is acting or working like an ordinary person. But such a person with poor fund of knowledge does not know that the activities of the devotee or of the Lord are not contaminated by impure consciousness or matter. They are transcendental to the 3 modes of nature. We should know, however, that at this point, our consciousness is contaminated. So consciousness is transcendental, but because we are in contact with matter, our consciousness is contaminated. And the example of that contaminated consciousness is, I am male, I am Indian, I am Hindu. All these designations are indication of contaminated consciousness. So, moving ahead on this discussion, when we are materially contaminated, we are called conditioned. False consciousness is exhibited under the impression that I am a product of material nature. This is called false ego, which means identifying with one's parents, one's place of birth, etc., etc., saying that I am this. But that's not. They're just an intermediate or intermediary for our birth. Our birth happens karmana daiva naitrena, according to our past activities and under the supervision of devata. Otherwise, no parents have selected any one of us. Ask your parents, did you select me? Anyone's parents? That's the point here. One who is absorbed in the thought of bodily conceptions cannot understand his situation. Bhagavad Gita was spoken to liberate one from the bodily conception of life, and Arjuna put himself in this position in order to receive this information from the Lord. One must become free from the bodily conception of life. That is the preliminary activity for the transcendentalist. Therefore, the very first instruction Lord Shri Krishna gives to Arjuna is, you're not the body. One who wants to become free, who wants to become liberated, must first of all learn that he is not this material body. What it means to understand that I am not this material body, which means not to follow the dictates of your mind. Austerity for a human form, which is said to be mandatory, it means not to follow the dictates of the mind, but to follow the dictates of scriptures. If Bhagavad Gita or if Srila Prabhupada, if Acharyas, Guru Sadhu Shastra says, we have to get up in the morning, have to attend morning program, or let's say we have to come for Be a Yogi program, have to attend this 640 program, then by hook and crook, I have to do it. Whatever mind creates a trouble, I have to punish my mind by not following the mind's instruction. You getting it? That is what austerity means. Austerity. If austerity is fasting, then beggars are the most austere people in this world. Please understand this. I just want to highlight this because we have a big misconception what austerity is. So austerity is not on the physical realm. Austerity is largely on the mind, on the mental level, where we're not going to follow what the mind says. How much ever mind may say, oh, I don't have time, I'm so tired, You tell the rascal mind, why did you not sleep in time? Why did you waste your time last night in Pajalpa? Why didn't you wake up in early? So it is your fault, you have to pay for it. I'm going for Be a Yogi program. I mean, I'm just making a point of Be a Yogi. It could be anything else. Okay, don't take it as a promotion. Huh? I'm just making an actual point here. Okay. Wait. Where was I? I forgot. Mukti or liberation means freedom from material consciousness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, which means material consciousness, the moment you stop listening to your mind and we start following Guru Sadhu Shastra, we are liberated. That's the point. Highlight it for yourself. What does mukti mean? Mukti is not that I don't have a physical body. Mukti means the moment I stop following the dictations of my mind and follow or live by Guru Sadhu Shastra, that is mukti. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also the definition of liberation is given. Muktir hitva anyatharupam swarupena vayavastitaha. Mukti means liberation from the contaminated consciousness of this material world, a situation in pure consciousness. All the instructions of Bhagavad Gita are intended to awaken this pure consciousness. And therefore, we find at the last stage of the Gita's instructions that Krishna is asking Arjuna whether he is now in purified consciousness. Purified consciousness means, please highlight, what is purified consciousness? Which means platform of mukti. It means acting in accordance with the instructions of the Lord. This is the whole sum and substance of the purified consciousness. Please highlight, very important point. Consciousness is already there because we are part and parcel of the Lord, but for us there is the affinity of being affected by the inferior modes. But the Lord, being the Supreme, is never affected. That is the difference between Ishvara and Jiva. So what is the relationship between Prakriti and Jiva? Prakriti is inferior energy, Jiva is superior energy. After that, discussion began about Ishvara and Jiva. Are they one or different? Yes, they are one in the sense both are consciousness. But one is minute consciousness, other is supreme consciousness. And the second point was the discussion what we're doing right now. The Lord is never affected by the inferior modes, by his own energy. Therefore, he never gets contaminated, but Jivatma, although pure in consciousness, gets contaminated by matter or by Prakriti. And that is a difference. Therefore, we can never become the Lord. We can always, because we are energy. Energy cannot become energetic. That's a principle, period. Now, what is this consciousness? So, difference between our consciousness and Lord's consciousness being explained. Now, what is this consciousness is the next subject matter. The consciousness is I am. Then, what am I? In contaminated consciousness, I am means I am the Lord of all I serve. I am the enjoyer. The world revolves because every living being thinks that he is the Lord and creator of the material world. Simple example, go back in your bygone ages before you started practicing Krishna consciousness. Every morning when we woke up, our consciousness, very first thing after waking up, is like a radar, would scan how today I can exploit the world. The first thing our consciousness when we wake up in the morning would scan, how can I exploit? How can I exploit? This is how it used to happen. That is what is being happening now. Material consciousness has two psychic divisions. One is that I am the creator, another is I am the enjoyer. Sounds familiar? Not an unknown terrain, right? Very known terrain. But actually the Supreme Lord is both the creator and enjoyer. And the living entity being part and parcel of the Lord is neither the creator nor the enjoyer, but a cooperator. Please highlight. What is our position? A cooperator. Just like this hand is neither the controller or enjoyer of this body, but a cooperator with the body. He is the created and the enjoyed. For instance, a part of machine cooperates with the whole machine. A part of the body cooperates with the whole body. The hands, legs, eyes, and so on are all parts of the body, but they're not actually the enjoyers. The stomach is the enjoyer. The legs move, the hands supply food, the teeth chew, and all parts of the body engage in satisfying the stomach, because stomach is a principal factor that nourishes the body's organization. Therefore, everything is given to the stomach. One nourishes a tree by watering its root, and one nourishes the body by feeding the stomach. For if the body is to be kept in a healthy state, then the parts of the body must cooperate to feed the stomach. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is enjoyer and creator. We are, as subordinate living beings, are meant to cooperate to satisfy him. This cooperation will actually help us, just as food taken by the stomach will help all of the parts of the body. If the fingers of the hand think that they should take the food themselves instead of giving to the stomach, then they will be frustrated. The central figure of creation and of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord. Please mark these beautiful examples that Srila Prabhupada have given. We, as an individual, should repeat. So we should, if we have to speak about, we should speak what Prabhupada's examples have. Prabhupada have given fantastic examples, which any person can immediately understand. By cooperation, they enjoy. The relationship is also like that of the master and the servant. If the master is fully satisfied, although the tendency to become the creator and tendency to enjoy the material are there also in the living entities, because these tendencies are there in the Supreme Lord, who has created the manifested cosmic world. So why do we have this I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer propensity? Because we are part and parcel of the Lord. We already discussed that yesterday. Prabhupada made this point in our yesterday's discussion also. So, we shall find, therefore, in this Bhagavad Gita, that the complete whole is comprised of the Supreme Controller. The living entities, Prakriti, Kala, Karma, all of these are explained in this book. All of these taken completely form the complete whole. And the complete whole is called Supreme Absolute Truth. The complete whole and the complete absolute truth are the complete personality Godhead, Sri Krishna. All manifestations are due to his different energies, and he is the complete whole. So this is a discussion about Om Purnamada Purnam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. So that's a discussion which pauses here. Now ahead. Now there's a discussion about Ishvaraha, what different aspects of Ishvaraha. What is that? Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam brahmeti pramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdyate. So now there will be discussion on three aspects of the Lord. The Supreme Personality Godhead has been discussed. Now Brahman aspect will be discussed. That's the next paragraph. So please write down what is Brahman. That's the title for the next paragraph. It is also explained in the Gita that impersonal Brahman is also subordinate to the complete Supreme Person. Brahmano hi pratishtaham, which means I am the shelter. Brahman is more explicitly explained in the Brahma Sutra to be like the rays of the sunshine. The impersonal Brahman is the shining rays of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Impersonal Brahman is incomplete realization of the absolute whole, and so also is the conception of the Paramatma. In the 15th chapter, it shall be seen that the Supreme Personality Godhead, Purushottama, is about both impersonal Brahman and the partial realization of Paramatma. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan. The Supreme Personality Godhead is called Satchidananda Vigraha. The Brahma Samhita begins in this way. Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Satchidanand Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. He is the primal cause. He is the very form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Impersonal Brahman realization is the realization of a Sat feature. Paramatma realization is of Sat Chit feature. But realization of the personality Godhead, Krishna, is realization of all transcendental features, Sat Chit Ananda, incomplete Vigraha. People with less intelligence consider the supreme truth to be the impersonal, but he is transcendental person. This is confirmed in all Vedic literatures. Nityo Nityanam, Chetnas Chetnanam. As we all are individual living beings and have our individuality, the supreme absolute truth is also, in the ultimate issue, a person. And realization of the personality Godhead is realization of all of the transcendental features in his complete form. The complete whole is not formless. This is what Mayavadis and impersonalists say. If he is formless, or if he is less than any other being, then he cannot be the complete whole. The complete whole must have everything within our experience and also beyond our experience. Otherwise, it cannot be complete. The complete whole, the personality Godhead, has immense potencies. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. How Krishna is acting in different potencies is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. This phenomenon world, material world, in which we are placed is also complete in itself, because the 24 elements of which this material universe is a temporary manifestation, according to Sankhya philosophy. What are the 24 elements? We'll discuss that. Are completely adjusted to produce complete resources which are necessary for the maintenance and subsistence of this universe. In other words, for our living, for our maintenance, everything is provided in this creation. If you find any scarcity, all the credit goes to scientists. Okay? They are the one who are polluting the environment. Okay, sorry, if anyone is a scientist, don't mind. I mean the modern civilization. There is nothing extraneous, nor is there anything needy. We don't have to really work hard. Vedic culture was all about having a piece of land and a cow. That's it. You grow your crop. Let's say you have potato farming. You grow your potato, whatever is surplus, you give it to neighbor and collect mangoes. Give it to another neighbor, collect rice. Give it to another neighbor, collect dal. Ho gaya nahi ho gaya, khichdi prashadam, right? I mean, you can have nice sabji, dal, whatnot. I'm just making a joke here about khichdi. So I'm just said khichdi so that those of you sleeping can wake up. Khichdi sounds delicious. So that's the point. Where was I? I lost the page. What? Where? Please use the line. Oh yeah. So there is nothing extraneous, nor is there anything needed. This manifestation has its own time fixed by the energy of the Supreme Whole, and when its time is complete, these temporary manifestations will be annihilated by the complete arrangement of the complete. So this whole thing, the world will end every year. Someday they talk about this is going to happen. Nothing going to happen. The time is fixed. When it is supposed to destroy, it will get destroyed. Nothing of our advancement can prevent it. That's the point. There is complete facility for the small complete units, namely the living entities, to realize the complete. And all sorts of incompleteness. This is from Ishopanishad introduction. And all sorts of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete. So Bhagavad Gita contains the complete knowledge of the Vedic wisdom. All our hankering, all our dissatisfaction is arising only because of our disconnection with the Supreme Lord. And how much ever material advancement we may make, how much wealthy we may become, how much name, fame, recognition, how many followers I may have. But if I don't have one follower, that is Krishna, all followers, all name, fame, recognition is of no use. Nobody can be satisfied. If the rich people were satisfied, then they would not get divorced. They would not work at the age of 70, 75, still continue to struggle to make some bread and butter in the Bollywood. You understand who we're talking about, right? People struggle like this. That's the point here. All Vedic knowledge is infallible. Next paragraph. And Hindus accept Vedic knowledge to be complete and infallible. For example, cow dung is a stool of an animal, and according to Smriti, a Vedic injunction, if one touches the stool of an animal, he has to take a bath to purify himself. But in the Vedic scriptures, cow dung is considered to be a purifying agent. One might consider this to be contradictory, but it is accepted because it is Vedic injunction. And indeed, by accepting this, one will not commit a mistake. Subsequently, it has been proved by modern science that cow dung contains all antiseptic properties. So, Vedic knowledge is complete because it is above all doubts and mistakes. And Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. So, after giving a little bit preview into the 5 subject matters, now Srila Prabhupada is coming to establish Vedic scriptures as the most authentic source of knowledge. And in that, Prabhupada gives an example of cow dung while discussing this. And in that, Prabhupada says, the essence of all scriptures is Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasacham hidi sannivishtam matasmritam jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarve aham eva vedyo vedantakrit vedavid eva chaham. That is said in the 15th chapter, 15th verse. Let's read one more paragraph and then we may pause. Vedic knowledge is not a question of research. Our research work is imperfect because we are researching things with imperfect senses. What a beautiful line. When I read that, I was doing research. I used to do night outs in my lab in America. मैंने कहा अच्छा मेरी सारी मेहनत बेकार है. So after 1 month, I gave up my night out. I thought, let me become a day being rather than being a night being. We have to accept perfect knowledge which comes down as stated in the Bhagavad Gita by the parampara. We have to receive knowledge from the proper source in disciplic succession, beginning with the supreme spiritual master, the Lord himself, and handed down to a succession of spiritual masters. Arjuna, the student who took lessons from Lord Shri Krishna, accepts everything that he says without contradicting him. One is not allowed to accept one portion of Bhagavad Gita and not another. No, we must accept Bhagavad Gita without interpretation, without deletion, and without our own whimsical participation in the matter. The Gita should be taken as the most perfect presentation of Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is received from the transcendental sources, and the first words were spoken by the Lord himself. The words spoken by the Lord are called apurusheya, which means not of this world, meaning that they are different from words spoken by a person of the mundane world who is infected with 4 defects. 4 defects are misc, tendency to make mistakes, tendency to be illusion, tendency or not tendency to have imperfect senses, and cheating propensities. And our scriptures, Vedic scriptures, among that Bhagavad Gita is above all these 4 defects. And first of all, Bhagavad Gita is the only treatise in this whole world which has been spoken by the Lord, whereas all other treatises are the words of the followers of the Lord, right? You take an example of Bible, you take an example of Quran, you take an example of Torah, have been spoken by the Son of the Lord or the Prophet of the Lord, etc., etc. But Bhagavad Gita is the only text which is spoken by the Lord. If you call that authentic, this is super authentic. So with that, we are close to 7:13. We have 2 minutes to go. So we'll pause here. Please mark where we have to start reading. So in today's discussion, anyways, while having a discussion, we already did a recap. Maybe if in case we have 2-3 minutes, if anyone has anything to comment or share, we can hear that, or else we'll pause. So I started with introduction. Some of you might be wondering, क्या चल रहा है ये? हमें तो भगवद गीता बोला था, श्लोक नंबर 1 कब आएगा? Please trust me, this is a very, very important. If you hear that, you have actually understood the 700 verses. The reason I picked up introduction, because I don't know how many of us will survive through 700 verses, because it's going to take a time. But if at least, if not anything, you're able to hear through the introduction, and in case if you happen to be a new person, I'm pretty sure you'll develop a very strong taste in reading Bhagavad Gita, rest of the Bhagavad Gita in your time. Therefore, I thought we'll take this Bhagavad Gita introduction. All right, so today's time is over. I've heard the speaker gets a good rating, high rating, if he concludes the class before time. In the last 2 days, we extended, so today we'll end a minute before. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you once again.